Okay.
Hey
Hi,
guys, this is Amrit, and
Miguel Matos.
so we started a new project a few months back called Binary Audio Dissonance, and in short form, B.A.D.
Yeah.
So our motive is to use hardware predominantly to make sounds and also perform live. That's the whole
main
thought.
goal.
That's
Yeah.
the main goal behind this project, to perform how we produce music. So yes, we are going to quickly take you through the project file of the track that we are going to be actually, like, it's coming out tomorrow. We have a track with Vision Serpent. It's called Resistance. It's coming out in one of the VAs called Rising Snakes. So yeah, let's get into it. So this is the project file. Yeah, we usually use around 40 to 50 channels around for all our projects. I think that's more
Let's
or less.
say 60-60 would say
Yes,
maximum.
it's more or less standard
Yeah.
for our projects, and yeah, this project is not any different.
So this was one of our first tracks that we did actually. This was already in December. That's when we start really
December, November, December,
seriously.
around that
Yeah,
time,
we would say. So of course, since that time, our sound changed already a little bit.
for sure. That's true.
But we are still very proud of this track because it comes in a nice label, and we like the music that's coming on there. So here we go.
Yes. So for starters, first things first, we are very particular about housekeeping. All our channels are grouped right way, and they're also color coded. So it's easier for you to figure out what is where, first of all. And yeah, so whenever we start a project, we start putting in channels. We start grouping them as in when we add the channels, because
On the fly.
yes, that's a really important habit to have for any producer. So yeah, first let's take a look at the kick bass. So for our kick, we used this drum kick preset from Mute Productions. They make some kick as presets for Vital. So we use this preset, which is pretty good. They have a bunch of different presets, but for this track we decided to use this one. And the bass, we basically made it on Reactor, but it's already bounced because we make like a couple of bars and we just bounce it and loop it. Usually how we work is, around the time we made this track, my studio is based out of Chennai, and Miguel's studio is based out of Goa, which is where we're sitting right now. So he usually makes the structure for the track. He adds the sounds, he sends the project file to me, and I go through it. I change the arrangement, I create some gaps, and I add my own sounds, and then we do one last sitting together, so we can polish the track. So that's how we work. So if you see most of the channels, if not all, they're all audio
Recorded
files.
live, yeah.
Recorded live, yes. And most of the sounds as well, we record from the various synths that we have around the studio. We'll just have show you what synths we use as we go through the project. And yeah, so for the kick we use Vital, and for the bass we use Reactor. It's just a normal rolling bass, so this is how it goes. So it's just your everyday triple bass, rolling bass line, and this is in the key of G. I am not really sure how to explain to you guys what we did on Reactor, because we have the printed audio file. But this is, you can recreate this bass in a pretty simple way. But yeah, I just don't want to get into it right now because I want to show you guys a lot of cool tricks that we've used to make this song, apart from the kick bass line. So yes, I'll show you how we process the kick and the bass first of all. So on the bass, I'm going to quickly open the EQ. We are using only the lows and some of the mids because we want to keep this space open for all the other elements that come on the track. And yeah, obviously like EQing based on how the sound is, so it's probably like resonant too much here, so we just pulled it down. We put a dynamic EQ on fab filter, so like the frequency compresses as like only that part of frequency compresses. So this is kind of how it is.
It's an automation on it.
For sure. And yeah, so after that we have a sidechain for which we use LFO tool. It's a pretty handy tool, but there are better sidechain tools. We've been lately using Duck. Duck is good. LFO tool is also good, but yeah, for this project we use LFO tool. And then we have an EQ8 that's doing all the filters for the bass. I usually don't use auto filter because you don't have much control over it, and it's also not too clean. Either EQ8 or FabFilter Pro Q3, we automate the frequencies and create the filters. We also have a saturator on it with some basic saturation, to bring out the color of the sound a little bit more. And we also have multiband compression going over the bass, which also has some dynamic compressing. So yeah, so that would be our our bass channel. And our kick, we have a Pro Q3. We've kind of obviously made cuts as to for techno, like around 1000 to 1500 hertz. We would dip the kick a little bit because it takes up a considerable amount of frequency space, and when you have leads and multiple things coming on in this band of frequencies, it clashes a little bit, so. And also the kick sounds much more better, and it finds its own space if you remove a little bit of this frequency. So usually around 7 dB to 10 dB is what we dip. We obviously remove all not all, a little bit of the highs, we roll it off because this particular preset bank from your productions, they make Psytrance kits, but we've basically used one of the kicks and we've made it sound like a techno kick. And yeah, so these dips are based on where our bass is peaking, bass is harmonic frequencies. This is where we've dipped the kick in a couple of places by a little bit, so when bass comes out, it doesn't clash. Yeah, so on the group,
the mid bass also.
Yes, we have the mid bass. Also on the group, we have a common filter for all the channels that are in the kick bass group. So the mid bass during the breakdown, and also our bass.
So the mid bass we did it with the TB3.
TB3, yes. And okay, if you look at the group, we have like a standard Pro MB patch called punch and leveling, which is good. It works really well for a lot of group processing. Obviously, we made a little bit changes on each spectrum, but it's negligible. The patch and stuff is really good. So yeah, this is our kick and bass. If you just want to quickly listen to it. And
the mid bass.
And this is our mid bass. So this was recorded on the TB3. So for the kick bass group, that would be it. We also make sure whenever we make any track that we started around -10 dB level for all the channels, -10, -9. And then
on the kick and bass, of
yes,
course.
of course. So it starts with the kick and bass. So if your kick, I set the kick at around -10, and the bass should also peak around the same level. And and as and when we progress through the track, there are some kind of peaks when we introduce other elements, and the average goes to around -9, -8.
Yeah.
But it's all good as long as none of the elements are louder than your kick and bass. We use Span Plus and DP Meter 5 to monitor our levels and our frequency. What do you call it, bro? Frequency spectrum.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You can show.
We can, yes, sure.
Okay. Up.
So when we made this project, we didn't use Span. We used the Pro Q3, but
Yeah.
nonetheless, it does the same job. You
Yeah.
can basically see your spectrum on Pro Q3 as and when the sound plays through.
And we can see our maximum peak
For
also.
sure.
More
Yes.
easier.
Yes. So basically, you start at -10, and as and when you keep adding element, it goes to -9, -8, whatever, And then when you do the mix down, you have that 3 dB, 4 dB headroom to make your important sounds pop out. So our final mix is always around -6, -5, which is pretty good, pretty industry standards.
Yeah.
Yes, so let's move on to the synths. So we have a bunch of synths here. For the intro, let me just show you what
I think we should
have.
have chose the track first in the whole thing with. Yeah.
For sure, yeah. So let's just quickly do this part, and then, or maybe listen to this with the whole track,
Yeah.
and then they'll understand.
Love the loop.
So yeah, basically what we've done with these two channels is, I think this was recorded through Grain Delay,
Yeah.
which is a default plugin on Ableton, any version of Ableton. It's a really cool plugin because you get a lot of textures out of it. No matter what sound you send through it, you can manipulate it to make it sound like just plain textures. And it also has a good stereo width. So we always have one of those layers in all of our tracks because your dynamics would
So
be
we,
very nice.
So
Yes.
we use them in a return channel because it's much more easy. Then you can just add to any sound that you want in your track.
Yes, correct. So basically, we use the grain delay on a pre-fader return, and obviously we send whatever sounds we want through it, and we bounce it as an audio file, and then we process that audio file and add it as a layer, and then switch off the return. Just so we can get an additional layer out of the existing sounds, which would also make it cohesive because there is one layer that has been derived from all the layers in the song, which is complementing everything. So yeah, this sound, this texture was made using grain delay by sending a bunch of sounds into it. And this Atmos synth, this was just made using the Access Virus. It's pretty simple.
An effect.
Yes. Just a couple of stabs that we've used through the track here and there, as you can see. And yes, if we go down, we've also used some samples. Obviously, like Miguel has a huge collection of very good quality samples that we've used for certain one shots and for percussions and stuff. And it's a combination of everything that we've collected, knowledge and samples and everything as musicians in all those years,
Which are a lot.
Exactly, yeah. So then we go to the percussions. We have these hi-hats which we've recorded through the Machine Studio, which is just your basic hi-hats. And this one technique that I want to show you guys, I think a lot of people already know this, but I still want to show you guys this. Very cool. So we always use a vocoder on like vocoder from Ableton on one of our percussion channels, and our carrier would be a noise carrier. So what it does is it basically adds a layer of noise to whenever your transients show up through the vocoder. It adds a layer of noise to it. We have the driver here is completely wet because we just want the noise, and we manipulated the noise to sound like hi-hats for the song.
Yeah.
So without the vocoder, the hats kind of sound like this. Correct. But with the vocoder and some automation on the release, it's basically gonna give you something like this, you know. So some kind of movement in your song.
Yeah, it's decay a bit.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
So it's a release of your carrier. So yeah, so this is a pretty neat technique. And if you actually listen to any of our tracks, you'll have like one layer of this for sure. Obviously, the claps and additional hats. We have some, samples that we've used. Some of the percussions we recorded from machine. The snare rolls, obviously, all of that is from Ableton. We just use an arpeggiator on a drum rack, and we can get like a nice roll volume automation.
Some of
stuff.
the sounds, sometimes it's like we make group of 2-3 hi-hats, and then we record a stem, and then so they would have like 3 different hi-hats in the same pattern.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
So all these hi-hats and perks, you see like a common name for all our channels. They've all been comped together, like different channels comped together. And yeah, I think this is the... Which version is this, bro? This is like...
This is
what?
the third version.
This is the third version. So basically, the project, the stems have been bounced back 2-3 times between each of us. So... Yeah, so just for ease of access or ease of the workflow, we just comp certain channels together if they are on the same frequency range, or if they have the same, if they play the same part in the song, as in like if they mean the same in the song. So yeah, we have some percussions which we've used here, which are samples, something like this. Just to get some kind of movement or some kind of textures going on. So yeah, and we have a bunch of one shots here. Let me just do this. A bunch of one shot percussions, which you can hear. Just a moment. So yeah, all these guys.
The cows. Some fields also.
Sure. Yes. So yeah, all these things, we've used samples, and here again on the effects, all the fills and vocal effects, they have all been comped from a previous version of the project. You can hear these guys here. So yeah, something like this, and we have some more effects here. So yeah, we usually have around 4 or 5 groups: kick, bass, synths, perks, Atmos and effects. But this project, I think we've comped everything together, so they're all in the effects channel,
Sometimes vocals also.
For sure. Also around this time, we were still figuring out our workflow and our template and everything. So it's a little bit haphazard. Our new projects are way more organized. But yeah. So let me take you through the parts for the starting part of the song where everything starts, The
part.
this pad in particular, I think we made with Vital. I remember.
Yeah.
It's also, I think, a patch from Your Productions, one of the Atmos patches. So we made some changes, some automations and stuff, and then we got this stem out of it. And this one, what is this one?
Textures.
Yeah, these again are textures that I
With the
think
grain
the same
delay.
channel. Yeah, this is the same channel as the
Ah.
grain delay. We got textures for our leads from other leads and other percussions. We just added it here because this channel in particular complements the leads, and whenever the leads are playing, they give out some blips, so it's pretty cool. And we also did some more, during our final sitting. We did a little bit of a weird workflow where I had my laptop as well set up on the side, and then
With the link.
exactly, yeah. So we used Ableton Link. So I made some MIDI clips out of the VST that I use a lot, called Dune 3, which is really good. I think it's by Synapse Audio, if I'm not wrong. So the leads and stuff, the main lead for this song, I think we recorded from Dune 3, running on my laptop on Ableton Session, and we linked, and then my laptop was sent to his sound card as an input. And as and when we were making the track, I was making some leads there. We used to bounce from one Ableton to the other because I feel like that's way more easier than making it separately, bouncing it, and then sending in the file, putting
Yeah.
it inside the project. This is
Also, it's a way for that like this everyone can work also at the same time.
for sure. Yes,
And you can see that in the result that the track is much more dynamic, much more
100%.
patterns and
100%. And for us is we mainly concentrate on jamming a lot, and then making sense of the complete recording of the jam that we've done.
when the jam is good, it's become a track.
For sure, yes.
Yeah.
We have a lot of jams. Some are good, some are not good, but it's all in the game. You can't always be perfect.
Yeah.
So
At least we have fun. That's
for sure, yeah. That's the most important thing. We
Yeah.
are able to do so much because we are having fun as we do it.
Mm.
So yes, let me just play the track. So yes. So this lead, I think we got through Dune.
Yeah.
For sure, if I remember, I was using the Novation as a MIDI keyboard.
Yeah.
I remember this. Yes. So this was made on Dune, and yeah. And what is this synth? This is a sample I think we used.
Yeah.
It's just to add some kind of something to
Reverse.
lead to the sound.
To the main.
Yes. Yeah, so this is kind of all the channels that we used. Now I'm just gonna take you through like small parts, how we've done the breakdown, and also yeah, we did we use a reference track for this? I don't think we did.
No. No.
So we didn't use a reference track for this. Usually we don't, but certain times we get inspired by other people and we use reference tracks for monitoring our levels or how we want our bass to sound like, something like that. But
No.
this project was just on the fly. Like this was around the time we started this project, as in like the B.A.D live thing, binary audio dissonance. So we were just pretty excited on making tracks and sharing the projects with each other, so we can.
So it was also the thing that we were supposed to have a live on the end of December, so we had like 1 month to create content to do the live, So at least to have 2 hours live, we were.
Sure.
But then it didn't happen, so we just continued to do music.
For
to do
sure,
tracks.
yes.
At some point, for sure, something will happen. Yeah.
100%. So yeah, so most of the things that I want to show you guys is all recorded through hardwares. We rarely use VSTs for sounds. Some of the sounds that I showed you guys were recorded on VSTs. So the VSTs that we use mainly are Pigments, Dune, very rarely Serum, and Vital.
A reactor.
Also Reactor, yes.
Reactor. It's one of my favorites.
Yes.
I do almost everything with it, like
sure.
percussions, leads, bass lines.
For sure.
It's incredible.
And inside Reactor, we use Polyplex a lot because
Yeah.
it can generate a lot of
For the
nice
percussions,
one shots and snares and whatnot. Pretty cool. Pretty cool library. I'd
Yeah.
say. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yes,
Let's listen to the whole track.
for sure.
maybe?
Yeah, we can. Yeah. So let's just play the track once.
I think by this time people. But what about the track?
So yeah. So you guys have a quick listen to it, and then we'll explain a little bit more. So yeah, basically that's the track, and couple things that I again wanted to show you guys is just the group processing on my leads and also percussions. Um, I mean, we have a common low cut on our lead groups. Usually, a lot of people use low shelf, but we stick to low cut because it actually gives the space for kick and bass like very prominently. Because for us, that's one of the most important parts of any of our songs, the kick and bass. As for everybody else, so you know. Also, again, we've used the saturator. We've just pushed the what band is this dude? Yeah, so basically we pushed some of the low mids a little bit so that the color comes out for the leads just in common. And we have another patch from FabFilter Pro MB called Dynamic Goodness. We've made our own changes to it. But yeah, this also ensures that all our leads are leveled. None of the leads are louder than the other. They are all like very controlled. And after this, we have a sidechain with the kick bass group. We actually have this particular sidechain on all our groups. Basically, the kick bass pushes down the volume of all of our other elements by at least a couple of dBs when they play together. So the kick bass has the most important space in the song. So yeah, even with the percussions, we have done the same. We have a Saturn on percussions because we have a lot of one shots and different sounds that are not just hats and claps. So we have a kind of setting for a saturation setting for the percussions. We also have a FabFilter MB patch which is called Sit in the Mix Drum Overheads, which you can find here in the drums category. Obviously, we've also again done our own changes to it, but it's a good starting point. All the patches with FabFilter, they're all good starting points for how you want to shape your groups. Again, you can see the same sidechain compressor from the kick bass group on the percussions as well. Let's check out the effects. We have done that with the effects as well. For the effects, we want them predominantly to be on the side and the back. So we have a patch here called Expanded Side Dynamics with FabFilter. And also, obviously, as we record the sound, the effects and stuff, we manually pan them so that they sit in the respective spaces, So to just like reiterate that, we have this multiband patch, and we also have a wider, so we 100% make sure that they're coming from the sides and not clashing with any elements in the center. And yes, so yeah, this project is not too complex, compared to any other project of ours.
Yeah.
Because we are just still figuring out our sound, the common sound that we have. And yeah, so there is not much more to explain about this, but we'll quickly go through the key points. Make sure that your kick and bass when you start a project is at minus 10 dB or minus 9 dB. So you have enough headroom when you finish the track. Make sure you notch your kick down to where your bass is peaking. Like your bass will have its own what's that word? What's the right word? It's the harmonics of your bass based on your key or based on how you've designed your bass. They'll have mountains and valleys in certain places on the frequencies. So make sure on the first or second mountain of your bass, on your second mountain actually, second and third, your kick is slightly dipped down, and you have a dynamic EQ for your kick. So the bass has a little bit more emphasis between the kick and bass. And for your synths, yes, always have a low cut on it. Even when we record, we do that. Even when we do it from our synths, we do the low cut and then we record and we freeze flatten it. We also do a lot of resampling. So we record something, and if it's not nice, we don't delete it. Sometimes we delete it, but sometimes if we feel like we can use it, we use Ableton's resampling functions to either stretch it or pitch it down, or we use like the warping functions to get some textures out of it or something. Just to salvage any sound that we have, and not just try and have a very rigid mindset on what sound exactly we need. We just make something out of what we have, which is the fun part. Never skip the fun out of making music. That's very important. And for your leads, have your low cut, and between your leads, make sure you sidechain the leads that overlap, because you want one lead to come out in certain parts compared to the others. I think a good example for this would be if you have a plug lead that's coming, and you have multiple layers of leads on top. Make sure all those layers duck when your plug lead comes in, because in this song we have one plug lead which is important for us, and then we've done this for that. And so when you move on to the percussions, again, I make sure that my percussions have like a low cut. If they have toms or other things coming in, we open in the low ends. That also only during the breakdowns, when the bass is not playing or the kick is not playing, we have lows coming in from our percussions and the lead. But apart from that, there's always almost like permanently low cut. And between the percussions, you have a couple of different hats. You can also use sidechaining between the hats. Certain loops will have your shakers and hats together, and certain loops will have only the main hat coming in. So with those two channels, you can create sidechain so the main hat pops out. It's like some basic stuff that we used. And one of the more important things that I just want Miguel, I want you to explain how you've done the sidechain as a common sidechain for all the channels.
So just create a MIDI with a kick, and then I just in the output I just put sends only. So that like this is still playing, it's still making the roll. So it's still like making ducking, but you don't hear it because it's only on send. So for example, when we put it on, it will not play. It's there, you see. Oops. Electrics came out.
A little bit raining in Goa for the past couple of months. So we have some electricity issues, but. Yes, so this is a method that he uses for sidechain, where you have sidechain that is not playing audio but that is active through your track, and wherever your kick is placed, we have our sidechain placed. So we just duplicate our kick MIDI on the sidechain. This basically has a ghost kick that's playing. So you can just use it to duck our channels, and if at all we change the kick, the sidechain still goes on. If we remove the kick or something, the sidechain still goes on through this channel. And yes, man, keep it simple, keep it clean.
Less is more.
Of course, obviously, yes. So I think that's all we have to show you guys. And once again, we want to thank Vision Serpent for trusting in us and supporting us by taking one of our tracks. I'm sure we'll send more demos to them, and we would have more releases through them. Thank you, David, for letting us release a track through you guys. Yes, and that would be the end of it. Thanks a lot, and
thank you.
See you guys soon. Yes.
Hopefully. Cheers.
Also, buy the VA, support us, 4 amazing artists on the VA. So check it out on Beatport. It's there for you guys to listen and buy. See you.
Cheers. So let's do a tour of our studio. We start with the TB303. Let's say it's an emulator of the 303, of course, as a TB3. Then the SE02 from Roland also, the mixer, the Apollo Twin, of course, B.A.D, our MIDI controller, the machine, our nervous system of the studio. That's what I use the most, I would say. We can see the color of the pads, they are already very used. The virus, of course, so virus very good for everything that is like harps, effects, percussions, very nice percussions. Our little delay, this is very good also. We can pitch the delay and the time at the same time. It's really cool. The K oscillator for some effects. Our mini log and our system 1. So system 1 very good for bass, like hits, you know. It's very, very nice.
There are also some synths that we use that are not in the studio. Basically, we have the ASM Hydrosynth.
Yeah.
And we have the MC707, and we also use the Boss RC505 loop station,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool sound processors and synths overall.
Yeah. So there you go. This is our studio. Thank you, guys. Cheers.